music is therapy and has always been so. In the church, in the village hall, for the hearth and the home, for the soldier and the lover. But only in our very methodical and very ailing world have we rediscovered the value, the techniques, the specific means of applying music to the rehabilitation of children suffering from any of the ailments which prevent them from leading active, normal lives. We are constantly bombarded by the lowest form of sound, man-made noise, which has no human message, or, if any, a very low and unnecessary one. The highest forms of sound are those which convey, in all their subtlety and their grandeur, images, patterns, and messages of love, wisdom, and wit, of compassion, philosophy, and humor, their personal and communal expression in joy and mourning, in the organization and direction of emotions for celebration or sacrifice. The inspiring communion through music between the normal person and the handicapped, and as well the disturbing effect upon the passive viewer, for heavy are our burdens, our perennial burdens of guilt, of debt, of ignorance. These are the emotions and the thoughts which will possess you, the viewer, as you witness this film.
A group of multiply handicapped children are welcomed to their weekly music session at the Nordolph Robbins Music Therapy Centre in North London. Children who otherwise have little contact with the world around them are reached through the special qualities of music.
If you think of music as being rhythm and tone, those are the basic ingredients in music. So we, as human beings, we only keep alive because of the rhythmic element in ourselves, the beat of our heart, our breathing, our walking, everything we do, the year coming after year, so on. This runs through human nature, as also does this question of tone. We express ourselves through tone. Therefore, we have these basic qualities which are inherent in music and in ourselves. That is one thing which makes it a very suitable medium for communication with handicapped people. That's it, you're doing it. Do it with your hands now. That's it, come on. Beautiful boy.
Music is a creation of man, in which he has put his own image, and anything in music is related to man. And that is why we can reach people through music, because after all, they recognize themselves in the music. You have to know, which I had to learn, physiology, how the body reacts to certain things, and even the vibrations of music can affect our skin, as well as it affects our perception. So that is the first thing. And people ignore that side because it is not romantic and it is not emotional. But you cannot have the emotional result of music unless it goes through your body. For instance, in Africa, there are some magicians who, when a part of your body is affected, are going to play a very vibrating instrument on top of the affected part. Maybe that the vibrations penetrate, I don't know, but in any case, it is logical according to their knowledge.
The search for scientific evidence of the effects of music therapy on the mentally handicapped child is the concern of Leslie Bunt, Research Fellow at London's City University. With the help of video recordings, he charts the development of the child's responsiveness to music in sessions carried out over a period of months.
This is a recording of the first music session with Areti. At the time of the filming, Areti was 2.5, and she's mentally handicapped. This is the first session of contact with the music instrument. She's playing the tambour at the time, and as you see, she takes a long time to warm up to the situation. Very little sustained contact on the instrument, no vocal sounds at all. And this was very typical of the early behaviour with her in the first few sessions. In this session, you see her 3 months later, after 12 sessions of music therapy, where you'll note immediately increased motivation to make music and to make contact with the therapist. Lots of singing, lots of vocalization, lots of playing many more sustained beats on the drum. In quicker succession, more motivated, more desirous to make contact with the therapist. Well, there is a sort of a technology of music therapy, particularly in the States, which tends to work in this sometimes in a more behavioristic sense, where the idea that certain types of music suit certain moods or certain types of behavior. But I think the method that I've adopted always in my work, and I think many of my colleagues in England have too, is very much to do with listening to the child's music, supporting the child's music or the adult's music, sharing together, if you like, what I describe as sort of shared repertoire of events. You build up an understanding of the child in music, look at the problems as seen in the musical behavior, try and say, okay, here are the child's problems, here are the adult's problems. Music can be applied, if you like, to help those problems in this way.
We have to be very careful, though, to realize that every child is an individual. But one can say, broadly speaking, that some children need the freedom of open-ended music before they can begin to respond to us. Others need to be held very firmly in a tonality which gives them stability. Others, more lethargic children, will need the stimulation of dissonance, of strange scales and intervals, perhaps outside their ordinary everyday life.
Bexy is a Down syndrome child who comes to the Centre for Therapy once a week. Creative music therapy is a technique pioneered by the late Paul Nordoff, an American composer, and his English collaborator, Clive Robbins. The aim is to reach and stimulate the inner child through music, with the idea that every child, no matter how handicapped, is capable of an individual response to it. The therapist improvises at the piano, while an assistant helps to focus and direct the child's activity.
When Bexy first came to us, which is 2.5 years ago now, she was very histrionic on the drum and the cymbal.
Right from the very beginning, are you ready?
Then there was the other side of this very strong, dominating personality, was a very withdrawn little girl who was afraid to use her own voice, and frequently she would withdraw and almost cry. It is very noticeable with the Down syndrome children that they are marvelous mimics, and one has to get underneath this to reach the real Bexy.
A giant? Did you say a giant?
Yes.
Well, surely we've had enough. We've had a witch. And now a giant?
Yes.
With big, big steps?
No.
Are you the giant?
Yes.
Right, and the giant song goes
So,
fee, fi, fo.
Shakira.
You'll have to show me. Right.
Chop down wood.
We meet the child where they are when they come to us. And Bexy has shown us this. I had no idea this is where we were going to be taken. What happens in the music therapy session happens in the music therapy session, and it's a very private part of her life. And therefore, it's important that we treat this with integrity. It's something which it should be nurtured and cared for. We should not be happy if the effects and developments which we see in music therapy was confined to the music therapy room. Of course, we will see developments there first, but hopefully these will go out and be carried over into the child's everyday life.
Marcia is 16 and attends a school for the severely subnormal. She's emotionally disturbed and has a tendency to be violent. This is her 13th session with therapist Rachel Verney.
Marcia doesn't have any language. She's also very resistive to close contact to other people. And she's also an adolescent girl whose emotional disturbance makes it very difficult for people to be warm towards her. So I would see the purpose of our music therapy with her as being able to, first of all, create a warm atmosphere. The music becomes excited, goes with her, joins her, and then attempts to bring her back from her own inner musicality, so that she's drawn back into what we're doing together. Put the drum where so she can play it here. Marcia responds now, she certainly didn't at the beginning, but now she responds with enormous trust, personal trust and openness to us for longer and longer periods when we play this very warm music. But she's also drawn in by an inherent musicality into beating the drum or playing the piano or singing with us. What we're trying to do is to strengthen the part of her that really wants to join with us in the music. so that she can help herself to overcome her enormous disturbance and resistiveness to close contact and communication.
Here we are. That's right.
Tracy has been coming to therapy for 2 years. At the beginning, she was often violent, and even now the therapists have to overcome an apparent reluctance to participate.
It's difficult to say exactly what Tracy's ailment is, but she is severely subnormal, and she also has very little useful sight. She is a child who is very frustrated.
Ducks and geese to swim.
Ducks and geese to swim. Wouldn't you like
Don't like it.
today?
It seems that as we work with Tracy, there are two sides to her character. She's a very musical child who has in some way been lost to any special education. Therefore, what she has potentially has never been made full use of. And the other side is this, like a gramophone record, which goes on with irrelevant talking.
Nearly.
We wanted to have a new activity which would focus her attention, also which would focus what little eyesight she has got. And we thought by having these 3 differently pitched bells that first of all she would pick up the melody of the song and connect this with the bell, which she has done, and then we place them in this particular pattern with 1 high and the 2 stretched out like this, so that she has to feel her way for these and actually begin to direct her eyesight and focus.
The Child Development Centre at Charing Cross Hospital combines a unit for assessing and treating handicapped children with a day nursery for the children of hospital staff. Children are studied individually as they play, and a group of specialists under a paediatrician carries out diagnosis and treatment. Broadly speaking, the medical profession is still sceptical about the effectiveness of music therapy in relation, for example, to speech and physiotherapy. But here, the music therapist is an equal member of the team. Roddy is withdrawn, has a language disorder, and may be autistic. In the relaxed atmosphere of the music therapy session, Kathy Collingwood tries to build a relationship through the music, at the same time observing the nature and extent of his handicap.
Certainly, I'm enormously impressed by how much a skilled music therapist can get from a child who perhaps has never communicated by speech, who's retarded to the extent of being in the pre-verbal stage. And to watch and listen to a child who perhaps for the first time is able to make an adult do something for them. Up till now, everybody's been telling them what to do and they don't really understand it and so on. And a skilled music therapist will pick up the rhythms that a child is making and then perhaps get the child to go faster and slower, and then the child to realize what's happened and to get the music therapist to do the same thing.
Oh! That way. This way. On it goes. Hooray.
I have no doubt that music therapy should be available in all centres like this. In other words, no child can really be properly assessed if the assessment for a handicapped child has not included music, because this might well be the area in which perhaps the most would be learned. So I would like to see music therapy very much developed throughout the whole country, and that every centre, such as ours, should have a music therapist on the staff.
If the case for the benefits of music therapy for children is gaining ground, the mental hospitals remain for the most part unconvinced. Here at East Fortune Subnormality Hospital in East Lothian, Julianne Cartwright attempts to break through the habits of institutionalised adult patients.
I went on to John's ward when I was first at this hospital, and the nurses taking me round said they thought certain people would respond very well to music. And I had heard this man making his particular sounds in a corner in the room, and they said you won't get anything out of him because he just is always alone and makes those noises. And I had my manuscript pad with me, went up to him, notated his so-called noises, and discovered that they had very clear musical intervals in them and even simple rhythmic patterns.
Hello, John.
The starting point may have been encouraging, but no dramatic breakthrough can be expected. Enormous patience is required. Communication means the occasional glance in the direction of the therapist, or vocal sounds which can seem little more than a parrot response.
Initially, I suppose you would call what I do mimicking, but just to stay there would be to stand still. My job as a musician is to start to make musical phrases with rhythm and pitch changes, and to invite him into joining the tonality of the music. When he does this, one is very aware that you have met the music person in him and he has met you. It doesn't appear yet to have been transferred onto the ward situation, and indeed it may never happen. But I still feel that this isolated man, even if he only has one session a week where he's really communicating with one other person, that he is having an experience that raises his level of pleasure, of communication, and for a little while he's not in this terrible wall of isolation.
The sounds emanating from the music therapy room down the road at Herdman Flat Mental Hospital are altogether more recognisably musical. Here the patients are mentally ill rather than handicapped.
Moving into the area of the psychiatric adult, who's psychiatrically ill, is a much more complex affair and musically demands much greater abilities to span longer periods of time, and to put it musically, to be able to spontaneously compose long phrases of music as opposed to often a very short phrase that one might need with a child.
Give me a rhythm.
I took a risk putting 4 people together who had such different problems and different illnesses. But what has happened is that the differences have simply lightened the problems of the others, and they've given and taken from each other through the music what they needed. And this has been an important musical and personal experience for them, which they're all perhaps not consciously aware of, but certainly they function together as a group in a very new way from how they started off.
Mrs. Cartwright is really part of a team. This is the thing in psychiatry now, of course, is to have what's called a multidisciplinary team. It has its disadvantages as well as its advantages, but she plays a part in the assessment of patients, as do the other disciplines, and obviously also in the treatment. I think probably the treatment aspect is more important than the diagnostic aspect, but the diagnosis does come into it too. One of the problems with psychiatry is it has tended, I think, to rely a lot on talking, and that is not always necessarily useful. And this is where other disciplines are often very helpful to us in making approaches to patients.
At the moment, music therapy owes a great deal to Freud, because Freud had made us conscious of the different layers of consciousness which music can reach and no other means. So already we owe a great deal to Freud, even if you're not Freudian. The other thing is the transformation of music for the last 50 years. I mean, without Stravinsky, we should not have free improvisation in music therapy. You see, it had made us discard the old taboos, you know, that one doesn't do this in music, and it was taking all the freedom from sound. Now, with Stravinsky, he has made us accepted a great many noises, even, or sounds, which were not acceptable and which are extremely expressive. So I think the development of music therapy will very much depend on the development of music, which after all is man.
Freud and Stravinsky combine in the approach developed by Mary Priestley. She begins in traditional manner with a session on the couch.
I used to be a very placid-tempered child, but then my twin brother used to tease me a lot, and until a point when I suddenly screamed blue murder, and I tried to attack him physically. And I remember one particular time when I tried to attack him with a spade, and I remember having a spade there in my hands and him standing in front of me within reach, and it was actually stopping myself from doing it.
What did you feel you were stopping yourself from doing?
Well, I felt I was stopping myself from killing my brother with a spade, I suppose.
Yes.
Well, this is how I feel now when I get angry, that it's the same feeling as then, that I can't let this go, because it's dangerous, you know, it's dangerous for me to express how strongly I feel, because if I do something terrible might happen.
So you've got these two sides of yourself, the fuming, angry one inside, and then the one doing what is expected. And
yes.
I think we could explore how these two sides relate to each other and how they feel about each other. And perhaps you would let me take on one of the roles part of the time in the music, and you take the other.
Okay.
People come to Mary Priestley for a course in exploratory music therapy, as it's called, for much the same reasons they would attend a psychiatrist. In fact, many of her clients are referred by psychiatrists. But what advantages does the music have?
Well, they've no inhibitions about music, and the conscience, the superego, has no rules for music. You're allowed to express yourself as angry as you like on the drums, but that same anger in words would bring about a terrible retribution from the superego. You're not allowed to do that or say those things. And in fact, music is even considered a nice, cultured thing to do, even if it's expressing really horrible emotions and very fierce emotions. Like in Stravinsky's Rites of Spring, it's still beautiful, cultured music, you see. You are the connection between their words and their music. They themselves are operating in two totally different compartments, each without awareness of the other. And you are the link, the connection. And that's why after the music, you must make the connections. You play back the recording and say, look, this is you. These tremendously dynamic and fierce emotions are you. This is in you. I'm not making it up, it's here, you did it.
Hello, Ada. How are you today?
Yes, fine.
Good. Shall we just do the usual song about that, just to start? Are you ready?
Yes. Hello, old safety friend.
2 years ago, Ada suffered a stroke which left her paralysed down the right side. She also had problems with speech, not only articulating words, but finding the right ones to express what she wanted to say. Then it was found she had a certain talent for singing.
Hello, hello, what's your favorite friend? Don't you think you wait your walk to the wind? It isn't the girl I saw you in London. Oh, 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 safety friend.
Right. Are you going to say it again then?
Hello.
Good. And the other thing you would say,
Hello, how
are you? Yeah. Shall we?
And I worked on her in the normal way that we do, a couple of times a week for speech therapy for about a year. And after that time, I felt really that we'd got as far as we were going to get. And I discovered that singing was something which she enjoyed, and it was something which helped her to produce words fluently. It seemed to help her to be able to remember and to produce words fluently. So I got together with a music therapist and we pooled our resources and started working on her together.
It's a nice sunny day outside. Do you remember this song?
I think the reason that music seems to work with Ada is probably because it involves the use of the right side of the brain, which in her case probably isn't damaged. We don't know very much about the neurological aspects of musical perception, but that does seem to be known, that the right hemisphere is involved in melodic things.
The ladies say I'm fed up.
Right. So I say, how are you today? And you say,
I'm fed up.
Oh, you're not fed up today, are you?
Yes.
Are you?
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Bottom.
Another stroke victim who has benefited from music making is Neil Hobson. In fact, he now makes a living from it. In his early 20s, while a successful West End stage designer, he was paralysed down his right side. He learned to play the piano with his one good hand, and now he's a professional music therapist. He reckons his handicap brings him closer to his clients.
If anybody, in fact, who is not paralysed, comes to me for music therapy, they always tend to initially feel sorry for me. And I, in fact, I use the fact that they feel sorry for me. And then I turn it around to the fact that there's nothing to feel sorry about. It's music, music, music. Music, music, music. it's obviously a very light-hearted way of looking at the world, because music doesn't make the world go round. But in fact, there are some truths embodied in that. The fact is that the whole thing is personal. It's personal. Music, 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 my dears. It's music, music, music that makes the world go round. Music, music, music with such a happy sound. Now, ritual is very important indeed. For instance, I always close a session by "Time for you to go." The top, and then glissando down. And then a pause, and wait, and they have to wait until the final note.
The morning call at Mignon House, part of the Camp Hill School for Children in Need of Special Care, near Aberdeen. Each day begins and ends with the playing of music, which forms an integral part of the daily life of the children resident here. The community is run according to the teachings of the Austrian philosopher Rudolf Steiner. For him, the elements of music could be applied to all aspects of life. For example, to each day of the week is ascribed a different tone, reflecting the mood for that day. A for Sunday, B for Monday, C for Tuesday, and so on. With the handicapped child, this has the advantage of creating a sense of time based on tonal relationships. Today is Wednesday, so the tone is D.
Morning, Sammy.
There are children here with many different types of handicap. While all come into contact with music in the course of the day, not every child receives music therapy as such.
Would you like some juice? Put that down.
Tonya is autistic, very withdrawn, hard of hearing, and has problems with speech. She's in the aphasic class, where all the children have speech difficulties. A series of rhythmic exercises is designed to improve coordination and thereby facilitate the speech process.
Now we come running up to jump, Samantha. Now we come running up to jump. Tanya, you push me. Come on. Very good, Tanya. Right, left, swing the bag like the jolly mill.
The final exercise, throwing a beanbag into a barrel, is seen as an action equivalent to forming the word.
Who are you? Who are you? I am Samantha.
The lyre is used extensively in therapy for its particularly urgent, clean and carrying sound.
Now, the elements of music therapy we work with a very great deal are the intervals. Not working with pre-composed music, we work with intervals. Many of our handicapped children will not be upright at all, and will not through tiredness, but they will not have the inner experience of uprightness, of knowing what it is just to be upright. And so through the use of this octave, we have been able to help a child find the inner experience of uprightness through reaching to his inner being.
Tonya's individual therapy follows a prescribed pattern, bordering on ritual, and is administered daily almost like a medicine. The light in the music therapy room is carefully controlled. Daylight is filtered through coloured gels. Red is thought to stimulate the extrovert, active side of the child's nature.
Good morning, dear Tonya. Good morning, dear Tonya. Good morning, dear Tonya.
Good morning, dear Tonya. Good morning, dear Tonya. Good morning, dear Tonya. Good morning, dear Tonya.
Good morning, dear Tonya.
The soft blue light is thought to favour the passive, introvert side of the child's character, to create an atmosphere conducive to listening. Individual notes are plucked on the lyre to develop Tonya's hearing potential.